Welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Life. I am Precious Chikudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with presidential poll. FCT can't be 37 states. Atiku Obi tells Supreme Court. The writer says 25% in FCT mandatory. Ask Apex Court to nullify TINUBU's victory. Insists PPC judgment perverse. Miscarriage of justice. INEC didn't transmit result electronically. Why we are at Supreme Court, and that's coming from Labour Party. On page 20, address corruption to build your economy. US tells Nigeria. Why National Assembly won't review social media regulation bill, and that's coming from Akpabio. And of course, we can see a protest in Abeokuta over Mohbad's death, and stories above, we have electricity supply crashes 97% to 88 megawatts as grid collapses again. Labour raises alarm over fresh moves to sell Unity schools. You can read more on page 13. Nigeria won't allow AU fail to secure continent, and that's coming from TINUBU. Gunmen on rampage in Enugu. Kill, burn 8 soldiers, policemen, abduct scores. All right, so let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with a UN General Assembly. Tinubu seeks a better deal to end extremism, Africa's exploitation. We have on page 7, angry Oyo APC members pelt Ganduje entourage with sachet water. Mohbad, demand for justice heightens. DSS join probe as youths protest. All eyes on judiciary, subtle harassment or political reawakening. Atiku approaches the Supreme Court to void PPC's judgment of presidential poll. 12-year-old boy with a missing intestine dies at last youth. And that's how we can take on the front page of The Guardian. Let's take a look at The Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with Tinubu at Onga. Nigeria welcomes a true partnership. A president addresses world leaders. And there's a quote, we welcome partnership with those who do not mind seeing Nigeria and Africa assume larger roles in the global community. The question is not whether Nigeria is open for business. The question is how much of the world is truly open to doing business with Nigeria and Africa in an equal, mutual, beneficial manner. Also, the highlights of the president's speech was the president seeks debt relief, investment in critical industry, access for African exports, corrupt fuel subsidy, bad forex removed for economic growth, resurgence of military coups and bad governance wrong. Foreign countries firms should stop looting Africa's riches. Africa not a problem but key towards future. Stories above, we have a TUC NLC differs on modality for planned strike. Obaseki Shuaibu exchange brickbats over lockout. Our silence not cowardice. Oyo monarchs tell Obasanjo. 71 exit NMPCL in gale of retirement at oil giant. All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with Dangote refinery imports crude as the NMPCL swaps oil for loans. The writer says Dangote expects crude from NMPCL in November, begins operation October. $3 billion crude for loan deals. Others put pressure on local supply. And we can see further story showing youth protest Mohbad's death, demand justice. On page 5, government plans renovation as miscreants vandalize Lagos pedestrian bridges. Power drunk Lagos policeman invade Lekki shop, arrest attendants, flood charges. You can see that on pages 4 and 5. Onga, Tinubu, Biden condemn coup, insist on democracy. Stories above, Niger crisis will put pressure on Nigerian food market, and that's coming from World Bank. Tinubu victory, Atiku Obi files 86 ground appeal at Supreme Court. And last year, in front page of the Punch newspaper, dollar shortage, foreign airlines strapped funds hit $783 million. And that's how we can take on the front pages of the papers this morning. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining, still today in the news on Vanguard Life, I am Precious Chikudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Gbenro Olajigbe, Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
All right, let's delve in this morning, and we're talking about Atiku and his counterpart Peter Obi. Yesterday, they lodged separate appeals before the Supreme Court. Specifically, they argued that the lower court erred in its judgment because TINUBU did not get at least 25% of votes cast in the FCT. Also, adding that INEC deliberately refused to transmit the results of the poll electronically to its portal. What's your take?
Well, let me say that they have the right to appeal the judgment of the electoral tribunal. But nevertheless, anchoring their prayer on TINUBU did not win Abuja is illogical, is jejune, and at the same time, it diminishes the citizenship of other people from other parts of Nigeria. Nothing make Abuja residents superior to residents and citizens of other part of the country. So that argument, I don't know where it's coming from. For somebody to wake up one day and feel that Abuja is a special place that have specially bred Nigerians and have rights that are superior to other Nigerians in the same part of the country. So even that appeal cannot be sustained constitutionally if it is anchored on the status of Abuja. For the purpose of argument, as a matter of fact, I've written on this since March, immediately after the election, when that argument started coming up and everything. So, and I've spoken on it extensively too. How do you make other Nigerians feel that Abuja must be a determinant place that will make other votes in Nigeria votes indeed? So there's no logic in that argument. It defeats every logic and is absurd that a presidential appeal will be anchored on that, even though the election tribunal has ruled against it. But then, even think and reflect on it as Nigerian, as ordinary Nigerian, and you are serving other Nigerians. What makes Abuja? So if you win election in all the 35 states and you don't win in Abuja, that invalidates the votes of other people in other parts in the same country. What that is telling you is that you are creating a separate city, a separate people. Possibly you have golden citizenship, citizens in Abuja, and maybe others are just silver and bronze citizens. So there's nothing logic about that. It floats common sense.
How about the part of where they argued that INEC did not transmit the results electronically?
Well, that one is a pleasant argument. You can argue that because even though it is when as a referee or umpire, you have decided the rule of the game. You can't change it in the midst of the game. INEC can no longer change what it calls rules and court, because it must be certain that you are following this rule when you are playing this game. An election is a game of life, and as a matter of fact, a game of development or backwardness. So when rules are set, it doesn't make sense for you to change it because of your incompetence and everything. So that argument is sustainable. I support such argument. That argument does not diminish any voter from any part of the country. So it's a legitimate prayer that can be made to court, albeit argued at the Supreme Court. So there's nothing wrong in those arguments. But where I feel insulted as a citizen, assuming that I'm staying in Lagos, is for you to think that people in Abuja are superior to me. So that one, it lacks respect for commons and shared citizenship. But for the other one, that one is sustainable. And I back them 100% on that. And that is equally my thought. You can't say that you are going to do this, and that is the process of election. If the process is wrong, then you can't have a very faultless end. If your process is wrong, the outcome should be interrogated.
Of course, there are lessons to learn from the 2023 presidential elections. Share with us some of those lessons as regards the voters, political candidates, and the electoral body INEC.
Well, I think one of the lessons is the emergence of the so-called the third force, which will be represented. That nothing is impossible if Nigeria should come together to reject leaders that fail to perform. Although Obi didn't win, but he made tremendous progress, a total departure from the previous election. Well, another lesson we can equally learn from that one is that we should always remember that those atrocities that accompanies our election previously, we have not resolved them. We have not resolved the issue of influencing the issue of perjury. We have not resolved it. We have equally not resolved the issue of vote buying in Nigeria. So aside from that, the last election was, albeit infinitesimal, was a bit of progress in terms of electoral credibility. Aside from those things, you can look at the fallout of the election. Obi made incursion into area that is not east, and this is a party, though Labour Party has been in existence, but it has not had this level of national acceptance before, and that means that those who fail to perform can be booted out. And what we should be looking at now, how do we refine the strategy? How do we the strategy that will focus on ability to perform, capacity to deliver, and at the same time leadership quality that can connect with yearnings of the people, particularly the young population. So there is hope for the young people in Nigeria because it is in their tongue. If they decide to elect a person, it is possible for them to have to stay true. Those are the lessons.
All right, moving on, let's talk about this. And the United States has urged Nigeria to work to stabilize its currency and fight corruption to unlock what they call the unrealized opportunity of Africa's most populous country. How do you react to this?
Well, that is the mirror of us they are seeing. They are looking at the mirror of ourselves, living in delusion that we are the giant of Africa when we have a very, what do you say, crumbling economy. Economy is important, and it's not magic that you can that it is possible for you to develop your economy. One, what are the critical problems, challenges that our economy is facing today? And look, this problem is the same. If Nigeria can stop importation of fuel, which we spend over almost near 50% of the foreign exchange on, it will strengthen our naira. It will make our earning, the revenue will go up, and we will be able to meet our commitment, whether in terms of debt or in terms of commitment to the internal commitment, like having a more robust economy that can open up opportunities, particularly for young population that is largely unemployed, that is largely shortchanged, ignored, and unplanned for. So the United States is not saying things different from the pattern of what can lead to economic growth and development. You can't be borrowing money left, right, and side, even at personal level. Hypertension will kill the person. If Nigeria is a personality, she will have died of hypertension from death. Look at the debt profile, both internal and external debt. How will a country, upon that, you are not productive. The little things that you are doing that is critical to global economy, which is oil, you are still importing the end product. Who does that? Where would the economic prosperity come from for a nation that is importing what it should be producing? So those are catalysts for economic development. If we stop importation of fuel, we look at other areas, not that we'll be deceiving ourselves with pyramid of rice pyramid that is nowhere to be found. And apart from that, I don't know whether people are following the revelation of the humongous corruption that went on under Buhari. A central bank deputy governor, Aisha, the woman, the lady, bought three banks, including titans that acquired Union Bank. Emefiele is doing his own, feeding fat on Nigerian naira and everything, unchallenged, unimpeded. So Nigeria should equally see that corruption in Nigeria is ethnic blind, because the woman, the lady is an Hausa lady, Emefiele is Igbo, whatever. There is equally a Yoruba man there. All of them united in corruption. These are the monies that we are borrowing. And yet they were looting it, doing those things that are inimical to our economy, development, with the money and everything. So the revelation is among us. How can a country like that grow? And look at the retinue, because I will still connect it with this government. Look at the retinue of appointment. That means that we have not even learned nothing. We have learned nothing from the past. 48 ministers. Who does that? Every country is having a very smart course of governance. Very smart one. US in population is more than Nigeria. In wealth, it towers above Nigeria 100 times. But it's not having more than 15 secretaries, equivalent of our minister. So you can see where the poverty is coming from. You can see where the corruption will deliberately create cesspool for people to sink themselves in corruption. So you can see where it's coming from. You can see, despite the warning that Nigerians who have no responsibility to go for hunger, that they shouldn't go to Washington, you could see the volume of people that have been taken there, junketing away. What are they spending? They are spending dollars there. How will that strengthen your naira at home?
All right.
So those are issues that are not engaged by Buhari, that were not engaged by Buhari administration, and that is not being engaged by the present TINUBU administration. So poverty continues is the message.
All right, let's move on and talk about this. Now, the Senate President Akpabio has said that the 10th Assembly will not review the social media regulation bill, since there are laws already guiding the use of the media. How do you react to this one?
Well, for that, I agree with you. There's no need for any law. You have law. Law of libel is in place. And you have the other one pertaining to speech. If you breach them, you can be tried under extant laws. We don't need to be duplicating anything. What is ineffective is the justice administration. It's not effective. And every kind of people take advantage of it to interpret it the way they like. Something that should be civil, you convert it to criminal cases. For example, if somebody insults me on social media and I want to take this thing, then I can sue the person for libel, or if it's a written word. And in case of a spoken word, for slander. So those laws are in place. And of course, you can equally decide to overlook it from personal point of view. Now, everything, they take advantage of it. Look at the case of, I don't know, the Talolong, whatever, in Kwara State. Pure civil case. No matter how angry you may be. Pure civil case. You go to court with it and settle it. But the police, because of the rowdy justice administration system, turn it, maroon every logic about law and of libel and slander, and they turn into criminal cases. And this is the challenge and problem we are having, and the failure to adhere to rule of law. People will be arrested and detained without trial in democracy. They don't know that all these foreign investors, in fact, they like to know what is the legal system in your country is. If you follow rule of law, that means that if they are doing business in your country, they have coverage. They are sure of their refuge. But what is civil, if you continue to turn into criminal, everybody will be afraid. So it's not about even electricity alone. And look at our situation. When you look at electricity, the collapse of it twice within 5 days. So those are issues that this administration should be engaging, so that we take our people from this level of malicious impoverization.
All right, let's move ahead and talk about this one. And President TINUBU said that African Union is strategically positioned to secure consensus positions for the continent on economic and sociopolitical relations with the world, particularly with Nigeria's backing. What is your thought?
How would they know that we are prepared? Africa is not prepared for anything. What? Language is cheap. He has a beautiful language, a beautiful delivery of his speech, but they are not connected to situations in the continent. Tomorrow now, you will see all these so-called presidents and head of state being summoned to France by one single by the president of a single country, and they will all be going. There's nothing that could be more insulting and saying that France-African dialogue in Paris or something, a country summoning a whole continent, and you go. Does that show preparedness? That is how they see you. In fact, most of them even see Africa as a country, because we have no position, we have not taken position even of the direction our continent should go, the way we should behave. Because if you take a position, you have to behave, that will give strategic direction you are following as a continent. Democracy should not breed poverty. But then, democracy itself, in the hands of African rulers, have become instrument to weaponize poverty in order that they remain in power. How would they take you serious when they see all those things? Which continent has enjoyed the infamy of having 5 coups in less than 3 years? Which continent? Africa, Nigeria, that should be showing leadership in Africa. Look at the level of poverty in Nigeria. In less than 2 years, 133 million Nigerians driven into multidimensionally poverty, poverty by misgovernance, by wrong policy choices, by corruption, and by directionlessness. The story is almost the same wherever you turn in Africa. Whether you are talking of, look at the challenge in Sudan, the challenge in Central African Republic. Look at the challenge, even the Tigris and in Ethiopia, where you have headquarters of African Union. Look at the challenge across Africa. If it is not, and you know that poverty reinforces vulnerability. And poverty inevitably trigger conflict, albeit violent one. Where will the development come from? When rulers of Africa are busy afflicting their people with poverty, with practices that are not democratic, even in democracy, with violation of rules of law and everything. I was saying it yesterday that, in fact, even under the military Nigerian, you will see head of state that wants to visit Kaduna or Kano. He will drive to those places. We used to welcome them in primary, wherever they go to get to each state, you line up for them. And in those days, geography has not, what is that telling you? That is telling you that you are feeling the problem with the people, with the ordinary people. You are in the same problem, you understand the problem, but we have rulers in Africa that just fly over the problem. How will they solve what they have not encountered? What they know next to nothing about it. Not because they don't share the same history, but they have the misery of a future that will work for everybody. Those are the problem with leadership in Africa, and whatever, no matter how beautiful the words that TINUBU placed before the United Nations yesterday, chicken is coming back home to roost. The same problem continue as long as we don't change the strategy of governance in Africa. So those are critical issues we should engage, and not painting our poverty as with gloss outside, with beautiful species and everything. Nigeria is growing. Nigerians are going through excruciating poverty today. Look at the spike in crime rate, the spike in conflict, the resurgence of kidnapping and everything. How would they take you serious when 8 coppers invited by federal government to go and serve, they are still in kidnappers' den today, terrorists' den, and you have not rescued them? Who takes you serious? Will that happen in the United States? Will that happen in any state that you are talking about? These people have more information than your speeches. So your speech, they can clap for you. That is diplomacy. But it doesn't move them. It doesn't impress them. They are just still looking at you as somebody that, let's clap for this comedian.
All right, Mr. Gero. Let's just briefly touch on Mohbad's death, the protests here and there, and people seeking demand for justice. What are your thoughts on the situation so far?
Well, my condolence to the family, but it was a very tragic thing that such talented young man will be killed by system that failed. Because this guy wrote petition to the police, and the police was now excusing itself that they invited him to come and defend support in a country that is supposed to be in a formation that is supposed to be intelligently guided. Look, when a case of intimidation is reported, and I'm telling all the police now, and the headquarters of police now, when a case of intimidation is reported, you don't call the intimidator and the intimidated to come and do that. No. It's about power relation. One has power over the other, and you can't call them because the outcome might not be palatable for the intimidated or the bullied. It is the responsibility of the police to uphold what you call diligent investigation, surveillance that is countering to the proposal of the intimidator by calling the intimidator, saying, meeting with him first, meeting with the the person didn't come and everything. Do they know their job? Your job should not be dependent on whether one come or the other. As a police officers in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a formation that enjoys recognition of law, and we expect performance from such formation, should not be handicapped in any situation of insecurity, particularly internal one, or threat to life of any Nigerians or resident of Nigeria. So we couldn't prevent that. The system failed the young man. But then another thing is that there is a dangerous demonic cult that is being run under the guise of making music in Nigeria. 2 years ago, people came to Abuja, the entertainment people and everything, and I was one of the people that delivered lecture on music for peace. I emphasize on this. Look, most of the songs we hear on our airwaves should not even get outside if there is a diligent regulation. Music of violence, what does it mean when you say Nakama Apaku? Is that a music of peace? I'm just giving you an instance. Those are issues. So we create atmosphere for people to engage in cultism under the name of music, and we do nothing about it. The system fails us, all of us. We all have, I'm just talking of the coppers that are kidnapped now. The system is anybody, if you see uproar about that now. But then I still blame Nigeria. Nigeria, we should not begin to take advantage of this Mohbad death and the anger in the land to mobilize that anger, not only for Mohbad alone, but for other citizens of Nigeria who are extrajudicially victimized, endangered, or killed. So that we can have a saner society or a sane society, because we don't even have anything near sanity currently. So the death of the young man is very, very painful. But the beauty of it is that if we diligently investigate this issue, it will unveil a lot of atrocities. That is even if we look beyond the Mali or the Malians, and you may even find out there are other people supporting them, particularly the drug barons, who are supporting these people in their music, in everything, engaging them, or some of them might have even become baron themselves. That means that they have been mischievously misleading Nigerian young people, destroying their future, adding to the problem of crime and crisis in Nigeria. So it's a chain reaction. So we shouldn't be looking at them as people that smoke Indian hemp alone. These people are dangerous to society. I mean those who intimidated Mohbad, causing severe burden to the extent that he even once contemplated taking his own life because of what he was passing through. And the system did nothing about it. Right. So you could see a young man, so I think he was a young man that got himself caught in morass of indignation because he was seeking for his talent to be born. But he wanted to pull out. And the people in his music company got him trapped. So he was a trapped citizen.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go. And Mr. was speaking, says, you are a very beautiful woman, dear. And Mrs. replies and says, you say that anytime you set your eyes on food. And Mr. replies and says, well, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Yeah, no matter the motivation, let us appreciate commendation, comments and everything. So we should not always link it to self-interest. We should believe in ourselves, trust ourselves, commend ourselves when it's even more difficult for us to live together, so that we can create environment for happy home and inevitably live in a happy society.
All right.
So let me calm down. You should calm down and embrace the commendation.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Agbero Lajigbe, Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Thank you for sharing your thought with us this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find out up-to-date stories, go to our website, www.vanguardndr.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and thank you for watching.